In fact, things got so bad that the federal government extended its foreign buyer ban to 2027. Statistics Canada data shows that non-residents owned about 7% of condos in British Columbia and 5.6% in Ontario. Clear evidence that investment demand has distorted housing supply. But wait, you might be thinking, isn't this just normal economic evolution? Think again. Most Canadians never even noticed when, back in 2015, former Prime Minister Stephen Harper publicly dismissed the middle-class prosperity platform as outdated. At the time, it sounded like political posturing. But in hindsight, it reads more like a warning, because what followed was a slow, calculated dismantling of the economic foundations that once upheld middle-class life in Canada. But here's the truly mind-blowing part. Canadian policymakers aren't failing to solve these problems. They're just ignoring the inevitable. When asked what happens if Canada's housing bubble finally bursts, analysts warned that it could trigger a financial crisis with ripple effects far beyond real estate. As Jacobin notes, Canada's housing market has become a tinderbox propped up by speculation, lax regulation, and blind faith in endless appreciation. If the bubble pops, it won't be a surprise. It'll be a disaster foretold. That's right, the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. If you think Canada's managed decline is shocking, just wait until you see what they've done to Britain. It's the same blueprint, just a more advanced stage. And what you're about to discover will make you question everything you thought you knew about modern economics. The United Kingdom, once the workshop of the world and birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, is now experiencing the fastest deindustrialization of any developed nation in history. British manufacturing, which represented 30% of GDP in the 1970s, has collapsed to just 9% today. Meanwhile, London's financial services sector has exploded, creating enormous wealth for a tiny minority while the rest of the country withers. What makes Britain's situation particularly alarming is the tax burden citizens now face. UK residents endure the highest taxation levels in over 70 years, higher than in countries like Canada, Switzerland, and Ireland, yet receive deteriorating public services in return. And it's forecast to get even worse. Government projections show the tax burden climbing further in the coming years, setting new post-war records while offering little relief to a population already feeling squeezed. A closer look at the numbers tells the shocking story. The average British worker now loses 30 to 40% of their income to taxes when all direct and indirect taxes are calculated. Yet National Health Service waiting lists have hit 7.8 million people as of March 2025. Schools are crumbling with an estimated £13.8 billion repair backlog. And over half of Britain's roads, more than 107,000 miles, are now less than 15 years away from total failure. Where's all that tax money actually going? The most revealing statistic might be this. While ordinary Britons face crushing tax burdens, more than 72% of Britain's top corporations pay less than 10% effective tax through complex offshore structures. And these same corporations are snapping up the very infrastructure being neglected by the government. Thames Water, the utility serving 15 million people, is now majority owned by foreign investment funds, including entities from Canada, Abu Dhabi, and China. While the company has not paid dividends to external shareholders since 2017, it has continued internal payments to service its substantial debt. Across England, water companies are projected to distribute £14.7 billion in dividends by 2030, even as customers face increasing bills to fund essential infrastructure repairs and address sewage pollution. But the most terrifying part of Britain's managed decline? The erasure of property ownership. Home ownership among Britons under 35 has plummeted from 65% in 1996 to just 28% today. Meanwhile, over 40% of rental properties are now owned by overseas investors who leave many units deliberately vacant as pure investment vehicles. And who's buying these properties? In London alone, nearly 27% of all homes sold in the first quarter of 2024 were snapped up by foreign buyers, 3% from the year before. Chinese and Middle Eastern investors led the surge, while American investment giants like BlackRock continued expanding their portfolios by acquiring large numbers of former public housing units. The message couldn't be clearer. Ordinary citizens are being transformed from property owners into permanent renters, from stakeholders into dependents. This isn't just the side effect, it's the primary objective. How far will they go with this plan? Look no further than Australia, the testing ground for the most extreme version of this economic transformation. What's happening there right now is a preview of what's coming for the rest of the Western world. Australia markets itself as the lucky country, a land of sunshine, prosperity, and opportunity. The reality? It's experiencing perhaps the most dramatic transformation of all three nations. Once a country with the highest home ownership in the world, Australia has seen that dream evaporate for an entire generation. Housing costs in major cities have skyrocketed, rising over 3,400% since 1975, while median full-time wages have grown just 1,183% in the same period. The culprit? A deliberate policy of hyper-immigration coupled with foreign investment incentives that have transformed housing from shelter into financial assets. Internal government documents from 2018 reveal Australian Treasury officials acknowledged this was creating a two-tier society, but proceeded anyway because it was generating significant wealth for existing property owners. Let's put some hard numbers to this transformation. In 2023, foreign buyers purchased around $15 billion worth of Australian real estate, enough to spark serious concern about housing access for locals. In response, the government is now implementing a 2-year ban on foreign acquisitions of established dwellings starting in April 2025. Meanwhile, immigration hit a historic high, with 547,200 new arrivals approved in 2023, even as building permits for new housing dropped by 8.5%. Elementary economics tells us what happens next: skyrocketing prices that make homeownership impossible for ordinary Australians. In Sydney, the median home now costs 15.3 times the median annual household income, officially making it more unaffordable